Hello, welcome to the Ice Cold podcast. I'm your host, Colby Leifson. We've got a very special episode today. We've got Fardaws Aimaq joining us. He's currently a big man out at Berkeley. He's had a very illustrious NCAA career thus far. He's from Vancouver, British Columbia, up in Canada. He was the 2020 WAC Player of the Year. He's a two-time WAC Defensive Player of the Year, two-time Blue Henson All-American, two-time National Player of the Year finalist, two-time Lefty Driesell Defensive Player of the Year finalist. He was the first player in 40 years to average 15 or more rebounds. He led the nation that year. And we go back to his high school days, talk about the high school scene up in Canada, all the way up to his current squad at Cal and what that's looking like. He's had an incredible journey this far. I'm excited for you guys to hear our conversation as we dove into everything. All right, Daws, how's the off season been? How's California?
It's been good, man. It's a lot different from the previous spots I've been at. California is, it's a special spot in a lot of ways, and I think it reminds me of home. Not just with the weather and stuff. I think the people, the diversity and stuff. I think it just reminds me of being at the crib, being back where I grew up, and I think. Being back with the people that I've spent most of my college days with, just feels like the right way to end my college journey.
Yeah, and what school, like Berkeley was just ranked the #1 public school in the US. What's school been like for you?
School is obviously it's tough here, but they honestly they provide like a ton of resources for athletes especially. So like it's tough, but at the same time, like if you utilize what we have here, it's not too bad. I mean, the one thing that is a lot different from other schools, like when you're in class, you genuinely are around a lot of smart, quote unquote, smart people. Like you might not know, someone in your class might be the next CEO of a big company. So I think that's like one thing that's been pretty cool, like to see, just because we have like team assignments and team projects and stuff, just talking to different people and hearing like the dreams and stuff that they have and what they want to be is a lot different, from what I've obviously been used to. So I think that's like one thing that's been pretty cool just to see.
That's awesome. And what are you getting your master's in?
Business administration right now.
Awesome.
Yes.
And what did you graduate in from Texas Tech?
So I was on a undeclared master's program out there. We were just kind of taking classes, but graduated at Utah Valley with the criminal justice bachelor program over there, and then
let's take it way back to Stevenston London Secondary. And what was the high school basketball scene like up there in Vancouver?
It's a lot better now, but back when I was growing up, honestly, man, it was tough for someone like myself, to get noticed. My goal, obviously, since I was little, like most kids, you want to play at the highest level possible. For me, playing Division I was obviously a goal of mine, but I knew with how things were going over there, like there'd be games where the biggest guy guarding me was like 5'5". I'm just this big, this big 7-footer, down in the middle of the paint. But I knew like if I wanted to get recruited, by Division I schools, I had to leave eventually. And going into my senior year, that's when I decided, I gotta make a decision if I'm gonna, stay here and possibly, have to go the JUCO route or go to, a school down in the States. And that's what I did for my senior year. I went down to the Northeast and I was in Maine for a year before getting recruited to Mercer.
And let's talk about Mercer for a minute. Why Mercer out of high school?
Being a young kid, like going through the recruiting process, it was my first time. So any attention that I was getting from coaches was, amazing. I loved it. But Mercer was one of the few schools that were recruiting me that honestly was there at a lot of practices. They came to a lot of games. And just early on in the process, like they were the first school that were kind of on me pretty heavy. And the vision that the coach had at the time, I think it was 2 years prior to that, they had made that big run and they upset Duke in the tournament. Just kind of the vision that he had for us. He said, "Hey, look, like we have 7 guys graduating, and we're bringing in all freshmen." And it was just kind of the perfect fit at the time because I had a chance to come in and play some minutes as a freshman. That's like rare. You don't really see that. So I just knew like this was a big opportunity for me because at the end of the day it was just about playing and going somewhere where I'll play, get some minutes.
And you've mentioned obviously your senior year in Maine, you go to Mercer, you go to Utah, Mercer, Georgia, obviously, you go to Utah Valley out in Utah, you go Texas Tech, and now California. So you've been all over the US. How do you adapt?
Yeah.
How do you adapt to new living situations?
I think honestly, man, it's been for me, I think being away at a young age has helped me out a ton. I think just the ability to like whether it's dialogue or whatever it is, like I'm able to switch up how to be around different people. I think it's helped me out a ton. And then also just like being I've been blessed to be around like really good people. And not a lot of people can say that. So I think like just even being at Mercer and obviously with you at Utah Valley and then at Texas Tech, being around a lot of those guys that I played with that were really good people now here at Cal. I think that's just like helped me. Obviously, when you're in a better mindset, when you're in a better mindset, I just think you are more positive in a way, and I think that just helps out everything.
No, for sure. I agree 100%. And you've changed schools due to different circumstances throughout your college career. What has been a priority throughout the recruitment process from high school to each time you've transferred?
For me, man, it's been just going somewhere where I trust the coaching staff and somewhere where I know we're gonna win and we're gonna have a good squad around me and somewhere really where I'll play and be able to showcase my talents. Obviously, as a freshman, it's just go somewhere where you'll develop and get some minutes. And coming out the first time, my coach got fired, so it was a little bit different. I'm just trying to find a spot. And obviously, Mark took a chance on me, and he he was one of the few guys that believed in me at a young age, and I think that just kind of took off. And then obviously the time when I decided to transfer again, was for a lot of reasons outside of college, just trying to better my draft stock and whatnot. And then obviously what happened last year, now back back with his staff in California. I think, at the end of the day, like I've just been so blessed to be, in the situation I'm in right now. I think with how things have gone the last couple of years, I think it's easy to put yourself in a bad mindset. But I think just being around great people again has given me that new edge again.
And you mentioned Coach Madsen. Could you just briefly explain what differentiates him as a college head coach?
Yeah, he's one of the few college head coaches that I think truly instills confidence in you. I think just like playing for him, like you could, attest to this too. Like there's a lot of critiquing, but like it's done in a positive way. And I think that, especially as a young player, like you're able to play through mistakes, you're able to build that confidence, and he allows you to work on your game and actually, show your game. Like my first year playing for him, I was a strict inside big. Second year come out, I'm, 53s attempted on the year. I think that just shows to obviously if he trusts you, he's going to allow you to do what you're good at. And I think at the end of the day, for me, it's just been, just like that relationship that I have with him. He's been a mentor to me, and he's been someone that like I truly look up to, especially as I've got older. Like, I see now, how dirty this college game can be. So I think just being around great people, is just beneficial, before you hit that next level.
And obviously he's got the experience at the next level, playing and coaching. He knows what it takes to get there and to stay there. What's your best Madsen story? One that personifies how he is.
Yeah.
I'll let you think about it for a minute. I've got a good story that I don't know if I've ever told many people about Coach Madsen, and just he's an unbelievable person. And after one game, he had talked to me before the game, talking about me having a big role in a game. So I was anticipating, getting in there, getting a few shots up, whatever. And I did not get a chance in that game. And I, get a little pissed, whatever, didn't play. And then the next day he calls me into his office and he actually apologized for not playing me, which was so unusual to me. And that just tells you how he is as a person, and he connects with players, and he went out of his way, and he said, "You're probably surprised that I'm doing this." But I mean, I was a little taken back that he would do that, but that just shows how he is as a coach. I mean, he gets to know his players, he cares for his players, and he really goes above and beyond.
Yeah, no, I mean, that story right there is just truly like that exemplifies like who he is, bro, as a person. It's crazy. Like a lot of people, when they first meet him, like this year I've hosted some recruits on visits. And the first thing, when we have some one-on-one time, they're like, there's no way he's really that nice. He's just faking it for the visit. And I'm like, no, man, he's really that nice. Like, people don't understand. Like, he's like a good person of of faith and morals first, and I think that just like spills over into like his coaching, and he's intense. Like he can get after it, and I think that like balance is a main reason why obviously I chose to come back to play for him. But I feel like a lot of people should be able to experience one time in their life.
For sure, having somebody that really believes in him like that is awesome.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about your redshirt year. So you go from a modest 5 points, 5 rebounds at Mercer. You sit out a year, obviously, due to the transfer rules, and you come back averaging 14 and 15 and break a lot of records. And that kind of sets the tone for the following years. Talk about some of the work you put in that offseason and how your mindset shifted.
Yeah, for me, it was, more than anything, just like a confidence thing. I think, being on that scout team and just building your confidence throughout the year, and just kind of playing free flowly, and obviously, the work that you put in, like outside of that, had put me in a position where like once I realized like, okay, I have a chance to be good at this sport. I think I just took things more serious, like, you see the transformation, like just with, like my body and like, taking nutrition serious and all that stuff. I think that just all came together, with the sit out year and the year obviously after, which was, my best year there. So I think all that kind of added up, and, just that not playing for a whole year, I think kind of like lit that fire under me, just because I was so excited to get back out there. So excited just to play. That year out was huge for me.
All right. And then something that I noticed, because obviously I was with you that year. You redshirted, I also redshirted after I transferred.
Yeah.
And the standard that you hold yourself to and held yourself to, it seems like it elevated year after year. So where did that come from, and how have you been able to sustain that level of discipline and intensity?
Yeah, for me, I think, over the years, it's just been trying to figure out like how I can get better, I think coming in, even, my first year there, I wouldn't say I could look in the room and be like, okay, I'm the hardest working guy. I think that just developed with, time and just maturing. Once I kind of realized, like, if I truly want to be successful at this, especially at the next level, because guys like, you care about the sport, but it might not necessarily be, what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that's fine. A lot of people, go different paths after basketball. And I think, for me, once I had said, okay, this is my life, I want to do this at the next level, I want to make as much money as possible playing the sport. I think that just, I sat down. I remember after my first year with Mark, we sat down and like we just went over like, okay, for me to be a pro, I got to do, A, B, and C. So that was the summer where I came back. Obviously, like I was in the best shape of my life, and it just kind of led on from year to year. Obviously, with the injury last year, it was tough, but now coming back, like I think it's kind of that same thing this past off season.
And you talked a little bit about Coach Madsen giving you feedback after that first breakout year. I know you also tested the NBA draft. What was the pre-draft process like when you've been through it in the past?
Yeah, that pre-draft process, I think, just opened up my eyes to really how not just how the process works, but like how to handle, I think, being in those situations when you're in front of, GMs and you're in front of, head scouts, literally guys that push the red button to, sign this person, draft this person, do this, this, and that. And they're telling you feedback straight to your face. I think that was an eye opener for me, because then I realized, like, okay, they're saying if you want to get drafted, if you want to play at the next level, you have to do A, B, and C. And like hearing it from their mouths, and I think just changed my perspective, because these are the people at the end of the day that are writing the checks, and like I think that just kind of opened my eyes, and this obviously after this year when I go declare again, I'm prepared for the process. I know exactly what it's going to be like. And I think it just takes that stress off of like the unknown, which is out the window.
Yeah, definitely knowing what to expect will be super beneficial. So after
Mhm.
your playing career, whether that's 5, 10, 15 years, what would you like to get into?
Man, I've thought about that a lot. For me, obviously, I want to start a family, but I think I really want to get into coaching. That's something that I've thought about a lot, especially I want to say like the last year when I was hurt. Just being on the sideline, I've kind of seen basketball from a different perspective, and that's like changed just my perspective on like being a leader, how I see the game. I think it's slowed the game down a little bit for me, and I can see like in a way it's helped me out this year, like just even in practices and these scrimmages and stuff. Like I'm playing at a different pace, and I think like just having that mindset of like, you know, understanding, the three plays before, whatever's going to happen, I think excites me in a way, So I think just like the coaching side of it is super exciting. I love the game. I want to be around the game. However I can. Hopefully, it's in a coaching setting, but I think player development coaching is like something that I want to do eventually after basketball.
I could definitely see you getting into that. And you've been surrounded by great coaches for a long time. So, and you'll continue to have great coaches moving forward. Some random questions here for you. If you could have dinner with anyone in the NBA, who would it be?
Anybody in the NBA? I would have to pick LeBron James. Yeah, just because I think in our generation, the past generation, this generation, I think it's just he's set that stone of like I am the guy. Not just obviously his greatness on the court, but I think just off the court, just really like seeing how he plays the game. He's a lot different than someone like, a scorer like Kobe or KD. I think just picking his brains, like what he sees out there, how he thinks the game, I think would truly shock me, because you hear all these stories about LeBron, and I think just having conversation with him would be crazy.
I thought you might go with LeBron, and that's a good one. And not like you said, I mean, obviously he's probably the greatest player of our generation, but also, I mean, off the court, he does some incredible things. He's got that
Yeah,
school that he started in Ohio, a great
yeah,
family. I mean,
yeah.
he's made an impact on and off the floor. And yourself, you've gotten into fashion more over the past few years. How would you describe your fashion?
Um, I would just say it's pretty like just calm, calm style. I don't know where my love for that started. I think it was the last, I want to say 2 years. But just like, having that influence of seeing it obviously at the pro level, but just kind of like having fun with it. I think it's kind of like a personality statement, like however you dress, I feel like that's kind of like your mood, or that's how you're feeling that day, and I think I just try to have fun with it. I don't really take it serious, it's just like it's more of a look good, feel good sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And in Utah, I didn't see you break out too much fashion because it was so cold. I mean, it's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, yeah. This is
It's
way
tough.
too cold up there, way too cold.
Yeah. Um, One for the upcoming generation of basketball players, what advice would you give to your 14 or 15-year-old self, just looking back, knowing what you know now?
You know, That's funny that you said that. I was actually thinking about this the other day, just because we had some freshmen and stuff that were having a hard time. That I feel like they've hit that freshman wall kind of early. But just thinking about all the times that I've struggled and stuck with it, I think like that's like one of the hardest things to I think accept as a player. Like keep working. It sounds corny, but your time's going to come, in one way or another. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I think like for a lot of young kids, like they might not see success right away. So I think like that work dips, they might not get in the gym as much. But like if you're blessed with, God given abilities and, you combine that with the work ethic and the talent, it's going to eventually, match out. And I think that is something that I would tell my younger self, like just keep going, man. Like it's gonna get better. You know, I've seen dark days, I've seen great days. I've been at the top, I've been at the bottom, and I feel like I've been at the best, when I've been at the bottom, because when you're at the top, you got that X on your head and people are coming for you. And I think like now the narrative, even for myself, is kind of like people don't know, like you see, damaged goods. How's he looking? How's his foot? Has he recovered? So I think like just like that puts that fire back in me, So I'm super excited for this year and just to get things going again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure a lot of high school kids will appreciate that advice. So let's talk about the current state of college basketball. I mean, a lot has changed during your career.
Mm-hmm.
NIL has become a thing. You had an incredible COVID year during COVID. A lot of different rule changes. What rule would you change if you could change something about college basketball?
I'm big for the players, obviously. Like um, right now, honestly, man, with the transfer rule, I would just change the fact that like you should be able to transfer. If you're in good academic standing, you should be able to transfer as many times as you want. We've seen now with the NCAA they're doing. Whether right or wrong, kids with a two-time transfer getting denied, left and right. And I think that's something that I would change. If someone wants to leave a school for whether the coaching staff, gets a new job, coach gets fired, or uh, mental health, whatever the reasoning is, I think that they should have that opportunity to, be eligible for that upcoming year. Because a lot of people don't know, man, like basketball is an outlet for a lot of kids. And I think not having that outlet could, be, really tough and almost in a way hurt a lot of, young, student athletes. So I think that's one thing I'll change for sure. And, with the way it's going now, it's looking like, it's about to get crazier, with the NIL and everything. So I think at the end of the day, if it's best for the players, they got to keep doing it.
For sure. And the players are the product. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reason that the arenas are full, reason why everyone's tuning in their TV. It's
Yeah.
for the players. Who's the best player you've faced in your career or the toughest to guard? So maybe not the best, but toughest to guard that night. I mean, who was just cooking?
We played played at Baylor last year. I forget the little guard who's playing for the Jazz now. The guard from Baylor.
Keontae George.
Keontae George. Yeah, he was a tough cover, man. Like when we played him at home, he had like 20 something with like 12 minutes left in the game, and he looks over at our head coach and he's like, "Watch, I'm not going to score the rest of the game. We're still going to win." And that's exactly what happened. So like, he was someone that was I thought was very, very impressive. Earlier on, I remember playing for the Spurs now, Champagny. When we played him, St. John's, he was really impressive. I mean, he reminded me of a Carmelo. He had like a 20-some ball that night, but like just how he could get to his spots with his size, and he was just really impressive. Now, on a 4-year deal with the Spurs, I think, he was somebody that was tough. I'm trying to think who else was.
Those are two good ones.
Yeah. I think those two are.
Champagny could have had a cool 30, but they were up a little bit, so they let him relax towards the end there, honestly.
Yeah, I wasn't going to though,
but we won't name any names.
No, we won't name it.
So for someone who did not pay much attention this offseason, give a brief overview of Cal's roster. What's going on out there?
Yeah, so we had I think it was like the top 5 recruiting class in the country. So we were bringing in grad transfer from Memphis, who averaged 10 points last year at Memphis. Keontae Kennedy, 3-and-D, really good wing he has great size, about 6'5". Jalen Cone, who coach had played, twice last year. I think he averaged like 19 at Northern Arizona, who started off his career at Virginia Tech. I think he was a former 5-star, who's obviously, going to be a big piece for us. The players that they had with, Devin Askew, a really, really good guard that, has played at the highest level, Kentucky's first year, Texas second year, and now here at Cal. And with some of the younger guys that returning from last year with, Grant, Newell and D. Okafor, 2 bigs that are super athletic, all freshman team last year, puts this roster, in a really good spot. And I think, the last piece that we're missing right now, Jalen Tyson, pending on his waiver, I put all my money down. He's the best scorer in the Pac-12. He's an NBA prototypical size, 2'3", 6'7", 6'8", 220, strong as a bull. He was with me last year at Texas Tech, so we're just obviously waiting on that appeal. We'll see how that goes. We should know here, the next little bit, but our roster's shaping up to make some noise in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I'm excited to follow along in that Jalen Tyson situation. Obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there was a UNC wide receiver who kept getting denied, and it became enough of a headline to where after 4 games, the NCAA finally just let him play. And I would imagine I would imagine something similar happens out there if he is denied again.
Yeah. I mean, there's word that we might hear within the next 24 hours. Obviously, we play Monday, so we want him before the game, but at the same time, it's like you can't really budge the NCAA and what they're trying to do. You know, they take their own time, and you know, it's going to be tough without him. But I think with him, we're going to be at the top of the Pac-12.
Yeah, and changing gears here, I want to do a rapid fire segment with you. So it's kind of like this or that. So you choose one of the two. I'll put 45 seconds on the clock, and you'll just run through these. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, MJ or LeBron?
LeBron.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Golf or tennis?
Golf.
Football or soccer?
Football.
Movie or TV?
Movie.
Night or morning person?
Night.
Instagram or Twitter?
Twitter.
Science or math?
Science.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Text or call?
Text.
Lunch or dinner?
Dinner for sure.
Batman or Superman?
Ooh, Batman.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruit.
Lunch or dinner?
Dinner.
Time. That's it. That was good. You had a lot of answers that I would go with, so I respect that. and just to wrap up, we got a few questions that some people sent in. Walk us through overcoming your injury at Texas Tech.
So, you know, for me, the injury that I sustained obviously was a foot injury. It was, I want to say, a month and a half before the season was supposed to start. So I was experiencing some pain in my foot. I thought it was a sprained ankle. You know, fast forward a couple of weeks trying to play on it, I found out that I had a broken bone in my foot that, you know, I was basically trying to play on all summer that I didn't know was, you know, broken. And I was kind of in a tough spot because the bone that I had broke, you know, the navicular is a bone that kind of takes a lot of the pressure of your foot. And, you know, the one that obviously you've seen in big men in the past, Embiid suffered, you know, a couple of years ago. Zion has suffered recently. I think that, you know, put that stress in my mind. You know, I've seen these guys out for 2 years now. Like, you know, they haven't played a lot of games. And I think that just stressed me out a little bit. And I think the timeline was a little bit shaky because they were like, it's anywhere from 6 to, you know, 10 months. And they're like, even at that, we don't know how you'll recover just because, you know, I'm 6'11", you know, 250 walking around on it. So it was scary at first. And, you know, the season that, you know, was supposed to be the quote unquote, you know, biggest year, not just for myself, but our team. We're coming in top 20, you know, preseason ranked, all these accolades and whatnot. And it's just like an injury takes you out. But it was a tough couple months, you know, from the start of the season, having to watch the guys play, not being able to play. And we obviously started off struggling. And that was probably the hardest part, like just seeing the struggle that we went through, knowing like everything that we're struggling with is what I am great at, you know? And I think that was hard for me to see. But then just getting to a point, you know, where I wasn't necessarily ready to come back and I was still recovering, and doctor had a different timeline. Athletic trainer had a different timeline. You know,
coaching staff.
Yeah. So the stress is obviously start to build up when you're losing, and like, you know, we had to make a game time decision, and you know, I came back. I think it was a month and a half early from when I was supposed to come back, and I tried to play. I mean, try to do what I could do, and you know, we ended out the season winning like the last, I want to say 5 out of the 7 games that I had played, because I played the first 3, I think it was in January something. We lost those, and then I had taken a couple weeks off because I had re-injured it, and then I came back. So, you know, it was a tough process, man, because I took about 2 months right after the season to fully rehab it. And before I had, you know, got out to Cal, I said, I'm not getting out there until I'm 100%. And, you know, by God's, grace and blessing, like I'm at a place now where I can say I'm 100%, like I'm fully healthy, I'm back in shape. So I'm really excited to, just show what I guess I was trying to show last year.
Yeah, for sure. And another question, what's your pregame meal?
Pre-game meal. I'm a big pasta guy. I love pasta. I think that's like my favorite pre-game meal. I would say like I would try and stay away from red meat before, but like pasta chicken or pasta, and even if it's just like with red sauce or something, like that's like my favorite pre-game meal, or with like some salmon or something, is what I can rock with before the game.
And you've played at all three of these: Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour?
Nike by far. I go Nike, Adidas, and then Under Armour's down here.
And one more question to wrap up. What's one question you wish I would have asked?
One question you'd have asked. Where I don't know. I think maybe something, with our something to do with the Redshirt year, some question that, would give the fans a little bit of insight to how you really were, how you were.
No, that scout team, that's a legendary scout team. I put that scout team up against any of them.
Any of them, man. I think that scout team could honestly that scout team could upset a lot of teams.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Hey, and one more question. Are you staying in touch with Trey Wood? Did you see his dunk a couple weeks back or last week?
I did, man. I texted him right after. He hit me back, man. He's been playing well, bro. He's an NBA talent in my eyes, obviously. And that's me being a little bit biased, obviously, but with him, not getting his year granted back, I think like his road back to, America, I don't think it's too far away, just from what I've heard and some scouts and stuff. I think it's really, possible and realistic that, he might be coming back this way pretty soon.
No, I agree. He's in a good league over there. Seems like he's in a good headspace, and I know
Yeah.
all of us are rooting for him.
Old
Hey,
white
well,
boy.
hey, well, I appreciate you hopping on, Daws. Thanks for making the time. Good luck this year. Be following along. Rooting for you, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for having me, bro.
Of course.
Yes, sir.